The luxury car stopped in front of the cleaning lady, and her attitude surprised the billionaire. Richard Thompson was late for the most important meeting of his life when the engine of his imported sedan started making strange noises. The car lost power and a cloud of black smoke came from under the hood, forcing him to stop right in front of the commercial building where a woman nobody there knew by name had been working since 5 in the morning. That's when she dropped the wet mop on the floor and walked decisively toward the smoking car. Richard got out of the vehicle visibly irritated, talking on the phone with his private driver who was sick that day. Denise Johnson watched the smoke coming from under the hood for a few seconds and then approached the businessman. "Do you need help?" she asked, taking off the yellow gloves from her calloused hands. Richard barely looked at her, continuing the phone argument about how to get another car urgently. Denise insisted, tapping him lightly on the shoulder. "Sorry for being insistent, but you have a problem with the cooling system. The water pump must have broken down." He hung up the phone and stared at her for the first time. He saw a black woman of about 45, with her hair tied up in a light blue scarf that matched her simple cleaning uniform. Her eyes showed a confidence that contrasted with the humility of her clothes. "Excuse me?" Richard laughed disdainfully. "You know about cars?" "More than you imagine," replied Denise, pointing to the hood. "When the water pump fails, the coolant doesn't circulate properly. The engine overheats and produces this black smoke. If you keep driving like this, you'll blow the cylinder head." Richard was speechless. Those technical terms coming from the mouth of a cleaning lady caught him completely off guard. "Are you saying my $200,000 car has a water pump problem?" "I'm not saying it, I'm stating it." Denise crossed her arms. "I've worked here for 20 years. I know the sound of every faulty engine that passes down this street." Richard's private driver, Frank, arrived at that moment in a taxi. He was a 60-year-old man who had worked with cars his whole life. Richard quickly told him what the cleaning lady had said. "Water pump?" Frank scratched his head. "Let me take a look, boss." He opened the hood, examined the engine for a few minutes, and came back with a worried expression. "She's right, Mr. Thompson. The water pump really did break down. And look at this. If you had kept driving, you would have ruined the whole engine." Richard felt the ground disappear from under his feet, not just because the diagnosis was correct, but because a cleaning employee had identified the problem before an experienced mechanic. "How did you know that?" he asked, genuinely curious now. Denise smiled for the first time. It was a smile that carried years of unrecognized knowledge. "My father was a mechanic. I grew up in his shop. Then I got a degree in chemistry, but I ended up working in cleaning for lack of opportunity." "You have a degree in chemistry?" Richard couldn't hide his surprise. "A degree and a postgraduate degree in industrial processes. But when you're a poor black woman, diplomas sometimes don't open the doors they should open." An awkward silence fell over the three of them. Frank looked down, recognizing the hard truth in those words. Richard felt uncomfortable, but something about that woman piqued his curiosity. "You know what I'm going to do," he said, taking his wallet out of his pocket. "I'm going to bet $1,000 that you were just making a lucky guess." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. Denise looked at the money and then at Richard with a serious expression. "I accept the bet. But if I'm right, besides the money, you'll have to listen to me talk about a project." "What kind of project?" Richard asked, intrigued. "A project that could save millions of dollars for your company." Richard laughed heartily. The idea of a cleaner having a business project seemed absurd to him. "All right, Ma'am. What's your name?" "Denise Johnson." "All right, Mrs. Johnson. If you're right about the water pump, I'll listen to your project." They shook hands. Frank called a mechanic he knew who worked at a nearby shop. While they waited, Richard watched Denise with growing curiosity. She had gone back to work, cleaning the sidewalk with precise and efficient movements. "Mrs. Johnson," he approached. "How long have you worked here again?" 20 years. I started when I was 25. At the time I had just graduated but couldn't find a job in my field." "And why did you stay in cleaning?" Denise stopped what she was doing and looked at him. "Because honest work is no disgrace, Mr. Thompson. And because here I could study, I got my postgraduate degree studying at night, paying with my cleaner's salary." "But you never tried to work as a chemist again?" I tried for 10 years. I sent resumes, did interviews, always heard the same thing: overqualified for the position or not the right fit for the company. Until I stopped trying. Richard felt uncomfortable with the bitterness he detected in her voice. At that moment, the mechanic arrived. "Let's see this problem," said the mechanic, a small man covered in grease named Bobby. He examined the engine for 15 minutes, took some parts apart, and came back confirming exactly what Denise had said. "Water pump's shot, sir. And the radiator's also having issues. If you'd kept driving, it would have caused about $15,000 in engine damage." Richard paled, not just from the confirmation of the diagnosis, but from the precision with which Denise had predicted even the collateral damage. "How much will the repair cost?" he asked. $2,500 with an original part. It'll be ready this afternoon." Richard took the $1,000 from his pocket and handed it to Denise. "You won the bet. Now I want to hear about this project." Denise put the money in her uniform pocket, but her expression remained serious. "I'm not going to explain it here on the street. Do you have some time in your schedule tomorrow?" "I have an important meeting now, but I can see you tomorrow at 2 in the afternoon in my office." "What's the address?" Richard pointed to the mirrored building across the street. 25th floor, Thompson Enterprises." Denise smiled ironically. "So I've worked for 20 years cleaning the sidewalk of the company owned by the man who's going to hear my project. What an irony of fate." "You knew who I was?" "Of course I knew. I pass by here every day at 5 in the morning. I see you arriving early. I see the important meetings. I see when you're stressed or happy. When you work in invisibility, you learn to observe everything." Richard was disturbed by this revelation. For 20 years, that woman had been observing his life without him ever noticing her presence. "Why did you never try to talk to me before?" "Because men like you only see us when they need something. Today you needed help, so you saw me for the first time." The phrase hit Richard like a punch in the stomach. He quickly said goodbye, got a taxi with Frank, and headed to his meeting late and troubled. Throughout the meeting with Japanese investors, Richard couldn't concentrate. The image of Denise and her words echoed in his mind. When the meeting ended, he called his personal secretary, Margaret, a 52-year-old woman who had worked with him for 15 years. "Margaret, do you know the cleaning lady who cleans the sidewalk in front of the building?" "Mrs. Denise." "Of course, Mr. Richard. Why? Did you know she has a degree in chemistry?" Margaret looked surprised. "I didn't know, sir, but I know she's a very intelligent person. Sometimes we talk when I arrive early. She always speaks about interesting subjects." "What kind of subjects?" "Sustainability, resource utilization, recycling. She has very advanced ideas about these things." Richard grew even more intrigued. He spent the rest of the day thinking about the meeting the next day. That night, Denise arrived home in the Queens neighborhood, where she shared a simple house with her 70-year-old mother, Mrs. Martha, and her 22-year-old daughter, Alicia, an environmental engineering student. "How was your workday, dear?" asked Mrs. Martha, serving dinner. "Different, Mum, very different." Denise told them about the encounter with Richard, the bet, and the meeting scheduled for the next day. "Finally, someone will listen to your project." Alicia got excited. "Mum, you worked so hard on those studies." "Calm down, Alicia. It's just a conversation. We can't get our hopes up." But inside, Denise felt a mix of anxiety and hope that she hadn't experienced in years. The next morning, Richard arrived early at the office and called his 28-year-old son, Michael, the company's operations director. "Michael, I need you to join a meeting this afternoon." "Of course, Dad." "With whom?" "With a cleaning lady who wants to present a business project." Michael laughed loudly. "Dad, are you okay? A cleaning lady with a business project?" "Don't laugh, son. This woman surprised me yesterday. She has impressive technical knowledge." "What kind of knowledge?" Richard told the whole story about the car. Michael listened with growing interest. "If she really has a degree in chemistry, she might have interesting ideas," concluded Michael. At 2 in the afternoon, Denise presented herself at the reception on the 25th floor. She was wearing the same work uniform, but she had ironed it, and it was impeccable. She carried a worn leather briefcase that had belonged to her father. The receptionist, a young and elegant woman, looked at her with disdain. "Do you have an appointment?" "I do. Denise Johnson, meeting with Mr. Richard Thompson." The receptionist checked the schedule on the computer with a look of disbelief. "It is indeed here. But you didn't come in your work uniform for a meeting, did you?" Denise stood firm. "This is my professional uniform. I have nothing to be ashamed of." "Wait a moment." The receptionist called Margaret, whispering something about the situation with the cleaning lady. Margaret came down personally to get Denise. "Mrs. Denise, how are you?" "Fine, Margaret. A little nervous, but fine." "Don't worry, Mr. Richard is a fair man. If you have a good idea, he will listen." They went up together to the 30th floor, where the executive meeting room was located. Richard and Michael were already waiting. "Mrs. Denise, this is my son Michael, the operations director." Michael greeted Denise courteously, but she noticed the skepticism in his eyes. "Well, Mrs. Denise," said Richard, "we are curious to hear your proposal." Denise opened the worn briefcase and took out a handmade presentation with colorful graphs and detailed calculations. "Gentlemen, I have worked for 20 years observing the waste in this and other companies on the block. You throw away millions of dollars in materials that could be reused." Michael laughed discreetly, but Richard signaled for him to be quiet. "Please, continue." "Paper, plastic, metal, glass, electronic equipment. Everything goes to the regular trash. With simple processes of separation and chemical treatment, these materials can be transformed into raw materials for the company itself." Denise showed the first graph, made with pen and ruler, but mathematically perfect. "I calculated that just in paper, you discard 800 kilos per month. With the process I developed, this paper can become high-quality recycled paper for 1/3 of the price you pay suppliers." Michael leaned in to see the calculations up close. They were impressively detailed and precise. "You did these calculations yourself?" "Not entirely alone. My daughter, who studies environmental engineering, helped me with the projections, but the chemical processes are based on my background and research I've been doing for years." Richard examined the charts. Even without understanding all the technical details, he could see there was serious work there. "And how do you plan to implement this?" "First, we would need space for the pilot lab. It doesn't need to be big, about 500 square feet should suffice. Second, some basic equipment for separation and chemical treatment. The initial investment would be approximately $100,000. Michael nearly choked. $100,000? Do you have any idea what you're proposing?" Denise looked at him firmly. "I have a complete idea. I also know you spend that amount in 1 week on waste disposal. My proposal can save $2 million per year." $2 million? Richard became interested. "How did you arrive at that number?" Denise turned a few pages and showed a detailed table. "Current disposal costs, $150,000 per month. Costs for purchasing materials that could be recycled, $60,000 per month. Total annual, $2,500,000. With my system, costs drop to $500,000 annually." Michael studied the numbers with growing attention. "Is this data real?" "Absolutely real. I have 20 years of observation and 2 years of calculations. Everything documented." Richard and Michael exchanged glances. There was something there that deserved serious consideration. "Ms. Denise," said Richard, "your proposal is interesting, but we need more technical details. Can you leave this documentation with us?" "I can, but it's the only copy I have. I'd like to get it back." "Of course, we'll analyze it with our technical team and get in touch." Denise knew it was a polite way to dismiss her, but she had no alternative. She handed over the papers and left the meeting with mixed feelings. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. The following week, Richard handed Denise's documentation to the company's technical director, Dr. Howard Peterson, a chemical engineer who graduated 30 years ago. "Howard, I want your opinion on this project." Dr. Howard examined the papers with a superior air. "Richard, this is amateur stuff. A cleaning lady doesn't have the knowledge to develop serious industrial processes. But the calculations seem correct. Anyone can copy formulas from the internet. What matters is practical experience, market knowledge, implementation capability. This woman has none of that. Richard was disappointed, but trusted Howard's technical judgment. He put the papers in a drawer and didn't bring up the subject again. 2 weeks passed. Denise continued her work normally, but couldn't stop thinking about the meeting. Every morning while cleaning the sidewalk in front of the company building, she looked up and wondered if she'd ever get another opportunity. That's when something unexpected happened. Jessica Thompson, Richard's daughter, returned from a 2-year period working with environmental NGOs in Europe. At 32, she was a lawyer specializing in environmental law and had a genuine passion for sustainability. On her first day back at the office, Jessica was organizing her father's files when she found Denise's documentation. "Dad, what is this?" "A project a cleaning employee wanted to present. It's already been reviewed by Howard. It has no commercial value." Jessica leafed through the papers with growing interest. "Dad, these processes are fascinating. This woman developed recycling techniques that I've seen used in Germany by cutting-edge companies. Howard said it's amateur work. Howard is wrong. Look at these calculations on cellulose utilization. They're extremely sophisticated, and this formula for plastic treatment is innovative." Richard was confused. 2 completely different technical opinions about the same project. "Are you sure?" "Absolutely." "Dad, I need to meet this woman. Where does she work?" "She cleans the sidewalk out front. She should be down there now." Jessica went down immediately. She found Denise finishing cleaning the building entrance. "Excuse me, are you Denise Johnson?" Denise looked up and saw an elegant, well-dressed blonde woman. "I am. How can I help you?" "I'm Jessica Thompson, Richard's daughter. I saw your recycling project. It's absolutely brilliant." Denise almost dropped her mop. "You read my project?" "I did, and I was impressed. I've worked in sustainability for 10 years and rarely seen such elaborate proposals. Can we talk?" "Of course, but I'm working right now." "What time do you finish?" "At 3 in the afternoon. Can I wait for you at a coffee shop nearby?" Denise couldn't believe what she was hearing. Finally, someone had recognized the value of her work. "Yes, you can, Miss Jessica." At 3:30, the 2 women were sitting in a small coffee shop near the office building. Jessica had ordered coffee and Denise a natural juice. "Mrs. Johnson, I need to ask you a direct question. Did you really develop these processes by yourself?" "With my daughter's help on the statistical projections, but the chemical processes are the result of years of study and observation." "Do you know you have valuable patents here?" "Patents?" Denise looked surprised. "At least 3 of the processes I saw can be patented. They're real innovations in the field of industrial recycling." Denise became emotional. For years, she had worked on those studies as a hobby, a way to use her technical knowledge. She never imagined they could have real commercial value. "Miss Jessica, may I ask why your father and brother weren't interested?" Jessica sighed. "Because we live in a society that can't recognize talent when it comes from humble origins. My father is a good man, but sometimes he's influenced by unconscious biases." "And what do you intend to do?" "I want you to present your project again, but this time with my technical support. I'll prepare a detailed analysis showing the real commercial potential of your innovations." Denise felt her eyes welling up. "Why are you doing this for me?" "Because I believe knowledge doesn't choose social class, and because the United States needs people like you to progress." In the following weeks, Jessica worked intensely analyzing every aspect of Denise's project. She conducted market research, compared it with international technologies, and prepared a professional presentation. Meanwhile, Denise continued working normally, but now with renewed hope. She told her family about Jessica's interest. "Honey, do you think this time it will work out?" asked Martha. "I don't know, Mom. But for the first time in 20 years, I feel like someone truly understood my potential." Alicia, who had followed her mother's studies since childhood, was excited. "Mom, this could change our lives. You deserve this recognition." But Denise tried to keep her feet on the ground. She had been disappointed many times before. Jessica scheduled a new meeting, this time with the presence of a consultant specialized in technological innovation, whom she knew from Europe. "Dad, I want you to re-evaluate Mrs. Johnson's project. Jessica, I already told you it was reviewed by Howard, and I'm telling you Howard was completely mistaken. This woman has ideas that could revolutionize our sustainability approach. Richard, who deeply respected his daughter's technical knowledge, agreed to give it a second chance. The meeting took place on a Thursday afternoon. Besides Richard, Michael, and Jessica, the German consultant, Dr. Klaus Schmidt, an expert in recycling technologies, was present. Denise arrived punctually, but this time wearing a simple business outfit she had bought especially for the occasion. "Ms. Johnson," said Jessica, "I'd like you to present your project again, but now with more technical details." Denise took a deep breath and began to explain. This time, with the confidence that came from Jessica's support, she spoke with authority about each process, each calculation, each innovation. Dr. Schmidt listened with growing attention, taking notes and asking specific technical questions. Michael also seemed much more interested than in the first meeting. "Ms. Johnson," said Dr. Schmidt in Portuguese with a German accent, "are you familiar with the hydropulping technology used in Germany?" "I am, but I developed a variation that uses less energy and chemicals. Would you like to see it?" Denise showed diagrams she had drawn, explaining how her adaptation of the process could be more efficient. Dr. Schmidt was impressed. "Richard, this woman has knowledge that many European companies would pay dearly to have." "Are you sure?" "Absolutely. Especially this mixed plastics treatment process. It's a real innovation." Michael leaned forward. "Ms. Johnson, have you calculated how much it would cost to implement all this?" "I have a complete projection. Jessica helped me refine the numbers." Jessica opened her professional presentation, showing colorful computer-generated charts based on Denise's manual calculations. Initial investment, $200,000. Expected return in the first year, $1,800,000. Starting the second year, annual net savings of $2.5 million. Richard studied the numbers carefully. "And if it doesn't work?" "Dad," Jessica intervened, "with all due respect, this is a no-brainer. Even if we save only half of what's projected, it would still be an excellent investment." Dr. Schmidt nodded in agreement. "Richard, I rarely see such clear opportunities. If you don't take advantage of it, I suggest you sell me the technology. I know 3 German companies that would be interested." The meeting ended with Richard promising a decision within a week. That weekend, Richard had a long conversation with his wife, Elizabeth, about the situation. "Honey, are you worried about the project or the fact that it comes from a cleaner?" Elizabeth's question hit the heart of the matter. Richard had to admit that his prejudices were influencing his judgment. "Perhaps you're right. Jessica and the German consultant are convinced." Michael was also impressed. "So what's the problem? What if it goes wrong? What if it's an expensive mistake? What if it goes right and you've missed the opportunity to do the right thing?" On Monday, Richard called Denise for another conversation. "Ms. Johnson, we've decided to approve your project on a pilot phase." Denise felt her legs tremble. "Really?" "Very much so. We'll provide an initial $50,000 to set up the pilot laboratory. If the results are positive in 3 months, we'll expand the investment." "Mr. Thompson, I don't know how to thank you." "No need to thank me. You just need to make it work." But not everything would be easy. When the news spread through the company, reactions were very mixed. Howard Peterson was furious. "Richard, this is a mistake. A cleaner isn't qualified to manage a technical project." "Howard, I'm going to give her a chance. If it fails, I'll take responsibility." But the resistance didn't just come from the board. The cleaning staff themselves reacted with mixed feelings. "Denise now thinks she's better than us," commented Doris, another cleaner. "I always knew she thought she was superior," said Brenda, supervisor of the cleaning team. Denise noticed the hostile atmosphere, but tried to stay focused on her work. Jessica helped her set up the pilot lab in an empty room in the building's basement. During the first few weeks, Denise divided her time between cleaning and the project. She arrived at 5 in the morning to clean, worked in the lab until 2 in the afternoon, and then went home to study improvements. The initial results were promising. The paper recycling process worked exactly as planned, producing recycled paper of higher quality than that bought from outside suppliers. Michael followed the development closely. Ms. Johnson, I'm impressed. The quality is above expectations. Thank you, Michael. I'm trying very hard not to let you down. You won't let us down, I'm sure of it. But not everything was going well. Howard Peterson made a point of visiting the lab regularly to point out supposed problems. Denise, this equipment isn't being used correctly. Yes, it is, Dr. Peterson. I can explain the process if you like. No need. I know much more about this than you do. Howard's attempts at sabotage were subtle but constant. He altered equipment settings, questioned every result, and spread doubts about Denise's competence. Jessica realized what was happening. Dad, Howard is sabotaging Ms. Johnson's project. Jessica, that's a serious accusation. And it's a true accusation. He can't accept that a person without a degree from an elite school has knowledge superior to his. Richard decided to talk directly with Howard. Howard, I'm noticing your resistance to the pilot project. Richard, it's not resistance. It's legitimate technical concern. This woman has no industrial experience, but she has results, and the results are excellent. For now, pilot projects always seem good at the beginning. Richard knew Howard had professional jealousy, but decided to give him the benefit of the doubt. Meanwhile, Denise faced pressure from all sides. At home, her family was excited about her success, but at work, the environment became increasingly hostile. You're not one of us anymore, Brenda said during an argument. Now you think you're always right. Brenda, I'm still the same person. I'm just trying an opportunity that came up. An opportunity you got by selling out to the powerful. What do you mean, selling out? Denise was outraged. Everyone knows you're having an affair with Dr. Thompson. The accusation hit Denise like a punch. Malicious rumors began to circulate through the company, insinuating that she had won the project through sexual favors. The rumor reached Richard's ears through Margaret. Mr. Thompson, I need to tell you something unpleasant. They're spreading rumors about you and Ms. Johnson. Richard was furious. What kind of rumors? They say you're having an affair, and that's why she got the project. That's absurd. My relationship with Ms. Johnson is strictly professional. I know, Mr. Thompson, but the rumors are hurting both you and her. Richard decided to act. He called a meeting with all employees to clarify the situation. I've become aware of malicious comments about the recycling pilot project. I want to make it clear that Ms. Johnson earned this opportunity exclusively through technical merit. Any suggestion to the contrary is slander and will be treated as such. But the rumors were like wildfire. They kept spreading, causing suffering for both Denise and her family. Mom, is it really worth going through all this? Asked Alicia one evening. I don't know, dear. Sometimes I think about giving up. But you've worked your whole life for this chance. And maybe I don't deserve it. Of course you do. You're the smartest and most dedicated person I know. The family's support gave Denise the strength to continue, but the psychological pressure was enormous. The situation worsened when Howard began publicly questioning the project's results. Richard, the numbers don't add up. Ms. Johnson is fudging the results to appear more competent. Are you sure about that? Absolutely. All these savings are an illusion. In the long run, it'll cause losses. Richard became concerned. He asked Michael to conduct an independent audit of the results. Michael worked for a week, analyzing every number, every process, every outcome. His conclusion was categorical. Dad, the results are even better than what Ms. Johnson reported. She was conservative in her projections. Are you sure? Completely. Howard is lying. I don't know why, but he's deliberately sabotaging the project. Richard confronted Howard directly. Howard, Michael proved you were wrong about the project's results. Michael is very young. He might have gotten confused in his analysis. He wasn't confused, and now I'm questioning your real motives for attacking Ms. Johnson. Howard realized he'd been found out. Richard, you're making a mistake. This woman will bring trouble to the company. The only trouble I see is your attitude. That same afternoon, Richard offered Howard an early retirement plan. The engineer accepted, knowing his position in the company had become untenable. With Howard's departure, the environment for Denise improved significantly. Jessica took over the technical supervision of the project, giving her work full support. Ms. Johnson, now we can accelerate development. How about expanding into plastic processing? I have everything ready. We just need a few more pieces of equipment. Richard approved the project's expansion without hesitation. The pilot results had exceeded all expectations. 3 months after starting, the project was already saving the company $40,000 monthly. The quality of the recycled materials was superior to that of external suppliers. "Ms. Johnson," said Richard in a review meeting, "the time has come to formalize your situation." "What do you mean?" "I want to hire you as the company's environmental consultant, a salary of $15,000 per month, plus a share in the project's profits." Denise was speechless. It was a salary 4 times higher than that of a cleaner. "And what about my cleaning work? It's your choice. You can keep both if you want, or dedicate yourself fully to the new position." "Can I think about it?" "Of course, but know that this is our way of officially recognizing your talent." That evening, Denise had a long talk with her family. "Dear, this is what you've always dreamed of," said Martha. "But I'm scared, Mom. What if it doesn't work out? What if I fail? You've already proven you're competent. Now it's time to believe in yourself." Alicia was more direct. "Mom, just accept it. It's the opportunity of a lifetime." The next day, Denise communicated her decision. "Mr. Thompson, I accept the position of environmental consultant, but I'd like to keep working part-time in cleaning." "Why?" "So I never forget where I came from, and to show other employees that it's possible to grow within the company." Richard was touched by her response. "As you wish, Ms. Johnson. It's your decision." Denise's transformation made an impact throughout the company. Some cleaning staff felt inspired and began studying. Others continued to resist out of envy. Brenda was one of the most resistant. "Now she thinks she's our boss," she constantly complained. "Brenda, she's still cleaning just like she always did," defended Doris, who had changed her opinion about Denise. "Just to show off, wants to seem humble." The tension among the cleaning staff worried Denise. She tried to talk to the group. "Girls, nothing has changed in our relationship. I'm still the same person." "Of course it has changed," said Brenda. "Now you make $15,000 and we're still making $2,000. And you can grow too. I can teach what I've learned." "Teach what?" "How to take advantage of rich men." Denise lost her patience. "Brenda, that's crossing the line. I never took advantage of anyone. I earned this position through study and hard work." "That's what you say." The discussion ended badly, with the staff divided between supporters and critics of Denise. Richard noticed the tense atmosphere and decided to act. "Ms. Johnson, what if we created a training program for employees who want to develop themselves?" "What kind of program?" "Courses on sustainability, recycling, industrial processes. You could be the instructor." The idea excited Denise. "That would be wonderful. I've always wanted to teach what I know." The program was launched with great success. 15 employees signed up, including 2 of the cleaners who had supported Denise. Doris was one of the most dedicated students. "Denise, I never imagined recycling was so complex." "It's a complete science, Doris. It has chemistry, physics, mathematics. It's fascinating." "Did you always know this?" "I was always curious, and I kept studying on my own." The training program changed the company's dynamics. Employees started suggesting sustainability ideas, separating materials correctly, thinking about resource utilization. Brenda was the only one who refused to participate, remaining isolated in her resistance. 6 months after the project began, Richard received an unexpected call. "Mr. Thompson, this is the American Sustainable Business Association. We heard about your recycling project and would like to nominate you for a national award." "What kind of award?" "Innovation in Corporate Sustainability. It's a very prestigious award in the industry." Richard was excited. He called Denise to share the news. "Ms. Johnson, we've been nominated for a national award because of your project." "Our project," she corrected. "It was a team effort." "Even so, you are the visionary. You'll need to present the project to a committee of experts in Chicago." Denise was nervous at the prospect. "Present to experts? What if I don't know how to answer their questions?" "You know more about this project than anyone in the country. You'll do very well." Jessica offered to accompany Denise to Chicago. "Ms. Johnson, we can rehearse the presentation. I'll help you prepare." For the next 2 weeks, they worked intensely preparing a professional presentation. Denise studied every technical aspect, every number, every process. The trip to Chicago was the first time Denise had left New York. She was visibly nervous on the plane. "Jessica, what if I embarrass myself?" "You won't. You know this project better than anyone. But they're renowned experts, university professors, doctors. So what? You have knowledge too, and you have something many of them don't have: practical experience." The presentation took place in an auditorium at the University of California for an audience of 50 sustainability experts. Denise took the stage wearing a dark blue suit that Jessica had helped pick out. For a moment, she felt her legs tremble. But when she started talking about her project, her passion for the subject overcame her nervousness. She explained each process with authority, answered complex technical questions, and demonstrated complete mastery of the topic. "Ms. Johnson," asked a professor from UC Berkeley, "how do you develop new processes without a sophisticated laboratory?" "Professor, innovation doesn't just depend on expensive equipment. It depends on observation, study, and creativity. I developed these processes by observing real waste and thinking about practical solutions." "But did you conduct controlled tests?" "Of course. For 2 years, I tested each process on a small scale in my own home. When I was certain it worked, I proposed it to the company." The audience was impressed with Denise's dedication and methodology. At the end of the presentation, she received enthusiastic applause. Several experts approached to talk and exchange business cards. "Ms. Denise," said a professor from UCLA, "I would like to invite you to give a lecture on sustainable innovation at our university." "A lecture? Me?" "Of course. Your methods are revolutionary, and our students can learn a lot from your experience." Denise returned to New York, transformed by the experience. Her confidence in her own knowledge had grown tremendously. 2 weeks later, they received the news. The project had won first place in the Innovation in Corporate Sustainability category. "Ms. Denise, we won!" Richard called excitedly. "We really won! I can't believe it!" "The prize comes with $100,000 in cash and national recognition. Half is yours," Denise cried with emotion. $50,000 was more money than she had ever seen in her entire life. The award ceremony was broadcast nationally on television. Denise went on stage to receive the award alongside Richard, but it was she who gave the acceptance speech. "This award represents more than technical recognition. It represents proof that knowledge doesn't choose social origin. I dedicate it to all American workers who have unrecognized potential." The speech moved the country. The video went viral on social media, making Denise a nationally known figure. In the following months, she received dozens of invitations for lectures, consulting, and television programs. Universities wanted to hire her as a professor. Companies competed for her services. But Denise kept her feet on the ground. "Jessica, I'm receiving many offers. What do you think I should do?" "What does your heart say?" "That I want to continue here, developing new projects, but I also want to teach others to do what I did." Richard proposed an innovative solution. "Ms. Denise, how about we create a sustainability consulting company? You would be the technical director, and I would be the investor. Our own company. Ours. A 50-50 partnership." The proposal left Denise speechless. From a cleaner to a business partner in less than a year. "I need to think, Mr. Richard. Think it over carefully. But know that I totally believe in your potential." That night, Denise talked with her family about the proposal. "Honey, this is more than you ever dreamed of," said Martha. "Mom, I'm afraid I won't be able to manage a company. You can do anything you set your mind to." "It's always been that way." Alicia was excited. "Mom, just imagine us, partners in a company. It's the American dream come true." The next day, Denise accepted the proposal. Green Solutions Consulting was founded with initial capital of $500,000. Denise contributed her knowledge and the $50,000 from the prize. Richard provided the rest of the investment. The company started small with 5 employees but grew quickly. Within 6 months, it was already serving 15 major clients. Denise preferentially hired people from humble backgrounds with unrecognized potential. Doris was one of the first hired as a technical assistant. Denise, I never imagined I would one day work at a consulting firm, and I never imagined I would own a company. Life holds surprises for us. The success of Green Solutions inspired other similar stories across the country. Denise became a symbol of overcoming adversity and innovation. Brenda, who had resisted Denise's changes so much, finally approached her. "Denise, I need to apologize. I was wrong about you." "Brenda, no need to apologize. I understand it was hard to accept the changes. Do you have a position at your company for a regretful cleaner?" Denise smiled. "I have a position for someone willing to learn and grow." Brenda was hired and became one of the most dedicated employees in the company. 2 years after the founding of Green Solutions, the company already had branches in 3 states and served over 100 clients. Denise was invited to speak at Congress about corporate sustainability policies. On that occasion, she deliberately wore her old cleaning uniform. "Honorable representatives, I am dressed like this to remind you that American talent is everywhere. We just need to give opportunities." The speech in Congress generated even more national and international recognition. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us, who are just starting out, now continuing. The American magazine Forbes included Denise in the list of the 50 most innovative women in Latin America. Her profile in the magazine inspired women from all over the world, but the recognition that moved Denise the most came from an unexpected source. One morning, while she still insisted on cleaning part of the sidewalk in front of the building where it all began, a black girl of about 10 approached her. "Are you Aunt Denise who was on television?" "Yes, I am, sweetheart. What's your name?" "Destiny Williams. My mother works as a housekeeper and said that when I grow up I can be just like you." Denise knelt down to the girl's level. "Yes, you can, Destiny Williams. You can be anything you want. You just need to study hard and never give up on your dreams. Are you going to keep cleaning even though you're rich?" "I am. So I never forget where I came from, and to remember that honest work is never something to be ashamed of." The conversation with Destiny Williams inspired Denise to create another project, scholarships for children of housekeepers and cleaners. The Hidden Talents program offered full scholarships to young people from humble backgrounds who wanted to study technical fields. In 3 years, it had already benefited 200 young people. Richard, who had become a great friend in addition to being a partner, was impressed by Denise's generosity. "Miss Denise, you could be making millions, but you prefer to invest in education." "Richard, too much money doesn't bring happiness, but seeing young talents being recognized, that's what fulfills me." The friendship between them had overcome all their initial social differences. Richard learned a lot about humility and life purpose from Denise. She learned about business management from him. Richard's family was also transformed by Denise's presence in their lives. Jessica became one of Denise's best friends, working directly in the company as legal director. Michael developed a deep admiration for Denise, seeing in her an example of authentic leadership. "Ms. Denise, I learned more about business from you than in any school," he said on one occasion. "Michael, I learned more about self-confidence from you all than in 40 years of life," she replied. Richard's wife, Elizabeth, became the godmother of the Hidden Talents program, dedicating time and resources to the cause. Mrs. Martha, Denise's mother at 75 years old, lived proudly of her daughter. "I always knew you were special, my child. I was just waiting for the world to find out." Alicia finished her environmental engineering degree and went to work at Green Solutions, continuing the studies she had done with her mother since she was little. "Mom, it's so good that our family always believed in education. Education is the only inheritance that no one can take from you, my child." 5 years after the broken car incident, Green Solutions had become one of the leading environmental consulting companies in the country. Denise continued living in the same Queens neighborhood, in a larger house she had bought for her family, but on the same block where she grew up. "Why don't you move to a fancier neighborhood?" some friends would ask. "Because my roots are here. The people who've known me forever live here. I don't want to lose that connection." Denise's house became a landmark in the neighborhood. Young students would go there seeking guidance. Mothers asked for advice about raising children. One day, Destiny Williams, the girl who had spoken with her on the sidewalk, showed up with her mother. "Aunt Denise, I got into chemical engineering school." Denise hugged her, emotional. "I knew you could do it. And now I want to work at your company when I graduate. There will be a spot waiting for you." Stories like Destiny's multiplied over the following years. Denise's example inspired hundreds of young people not to give up on their dreams. The company kept growing, always maintaining its focus on sustainability and social inclusion. Denise made sure at least half the employees came from humble backgrounds. Richard, at 50, reflected on how that chance meeting had changed his life. "Denise, you taught me that real success isn't about how much money we make, but how many lives we positively touch. And you taught me that people from different classes can be true friends when there's mutual respect." Their partnership became legendary in American business circles. Universities studied their business model as an example of social innovation. Denise began writing a book about her experience. From Mop to Millions, Lessons from an Unlikely Journey became a national bestseller. At the book's first launch event, she took the stage carrying the mop she was using when she met Richard. "This mop represents my story. I'll never forget it, because it reminds me of where I came from and where I can go." The audience was moved by the simplicity and authenticity of her words. During the signing session, an elderly lady approached. "Dear, my name is Gladys. I've worked as a cleaner for 40 years. Your story gave me hope that my granddaughter can be anything she wants." "Mrs. Gladys, your granddaughter can be whatever she dreams, and so can you. It's never too late to grow." At 70 years old? At 70, you have knowledge and experience worth their weight in gold. You just need the right opportunity. Inspired by this conversation, Denise created a special program for veteran cleaning staff, the Wisdom Project. The project offered courses to leverage professional experience, turning cleaners and custodians into consultants for organization and specialized cleaning. Mrs. Gladys was one of the first beneficiaries, becoming a consultant in hospital cleaning. Denise's social projects gained international attention. She was invited to speak at the UN about social inclusion through education. Honorable representatives, the United States has talent in every corner, in every social class. Our responsibility is to build bridges so these talents can be recognized. Her UN speech generated invitations for projects in other Latin American countries, but Denise preferred to keep her focus on the United States. "We still have much work to do here. I can't spread myself too thin." Richard admired this dedication to the country. "Denise, you could be a millionaire international businesswoman." "Richard, I'd rather be an American businesswoman who transforms lives in my own country." At 48, Denise decided to return to university for a master's degree in sustainability. "Why go back to school?" asked Alicia. "You already know more than many professors." "Because we never stop learning, dear, and I want to set an example that we can always improve ourselves." Denise's master's thesis was on technological innovation developed by workers, unrecognized potential in American industry. Her research identified dozens of innovations created by factory workers, janitors, doormen, and other laborers that were never recognized or utilized. "We need to create mechanisms to capture and develop these innovations," she argued in her dissertation. Denise's research inspired a federal law to encourage grassroots innovation, guaranteeing copyright protections for workers who developed improvements to industrial processes. Richard attended her thesis defense with pride. "Denise, you never cease to amaze us." "Richard, when we stop being amazed, we stop growing." Green Solutions Consulting celebrated its 10th anniversary with an annual revenue of $50 million and over 1,000 employees. At the company's anniversary party, Denise gave an emotional speech. "When Richard stopped his car in front of me 10 years ago, neither of us imagined where it would lead. Today, we have a company that proves talent doesn't choose a social background." The audience, composed of employees, clients, and officials, gave a standing ovation. Richard also gave his speech. "Denise taught me that true wealth isn't in what we earn, but in what we share. This company is proof that partnerships based on mutual respect can transform lives." During the party, Denise was surprised by the presence of Destiny Williams, now a graduate in chemical engineering working at the company. "Aunt Denise, I brought a surprise for you." Destiny introduced a group of 10 young engineers, all beneficiaries of the Hidden Talents program. "We're the first complete class from the program, and we want to say thank you for believing in us." Denise cried with emotion. Seeing those accomplished young professionals was her greatest reward. "You are the future of the United States. Now it's your responsibility to open doors for others." "Don't worry, Aunt Denise. We'll continue your work." That night, Denise returned home thinking about everything she had achieved. She stopped in front of the mirror and saw a 48-year-old woman professionally fulfilled, but who maintained her same simplicity. "Who would have thought, right, Dad?" she said, looking at the photo of her mechanic father on the wall. "Your daughter became a businesswoman, but never forgot your lessons." Martha, now 80 years old, watched her daughter with pride. "Your father would be very proud, dear. You honored the knowledge he gave you. And I honored the love you gave me, Mom." Alicia, now Director of New Projects at Green Solutions, was planning to expand the social inclusion program. "Mom, what about creating a specific program for women victims of domestic violence?" "Excellent idea, daughter. They need opportunities to rebuild their lives." The Fresh Start program was launched the following year, offering professional training and psychological support for women in vulnerable situations. Denise made sure to personally follow each beneficiary. "Ladies, you have strength you can't even imagine. You just need opportunity to show your worth." The program became a national reference, being replicated in other states. Richard, at 55, decided to dedicate more time to social projects. "Denise, I want to create a foundation to expand our educational programs." "What kind of foundation?" "A foundation that identifies and develops hidden talents across the country, with you as president." The American Talent Foundation was created with an initial investment of $10 million from Richard and $5 million from Denise. The foundation began serving 50 American cities, identifying and developing talents in rural areas, urban peripheries, and underprivileged communities. Denise traveled across the country learning inspiring stories similar to her own. In Louisiana, she met a butcher who had developed innovative meat preservation techniques. In Alaska, she found a midwife who created internationally recognized humane childbirth methods. In Wisconsin, she discovered a farmer who developed sustainable planting techniques more efficient than those taught in universities. "The United States is full of unrecognized geniuses," she would comment to Richard after each trip, "and our mission is to give visibility to these talents," he would respond. The foundation documented over 1,000 grassroots innovations in 5 years of operation. Denise became one of the most respected women in the country. She received honorary degrees from several universities and commendations from the federal government. But she continued living in the same neighborhood and symbolically cleaning the sidewalk in front of the building where it all began. "Why do you still do that?" journalists would ask. "To remember that greatness isn't in the position we hold, but in the difference we make in people's lives." At 50, Denise was elected Businesswoman of the Year by Fortune magazine. At the award ceremony, she took the stage wearing a brooch shaped like a mop. "This award isn't mine. It belongs to all American workers who have the potential to innovate and transform the country." The speech went viral internationally, inspiring similar movements in other countries. American and European universities began studying the Denise model of identifying and developing grassroots talent. Harvard invited Denise to give a lecture on social innovation. "Professor Denise," a student asked, "what's the secret to your success?" "There is no secret. There's only hard work, constant study, and courage to accept opportunities when they appear." "But weren't you lucky to meet Mr. Richard?" "Luck is when preparation meets opportunity. I had been preparing for 20 years. Richard was just the opportunity." The response became one of the most quoted phrases about entrepreneurship in the United States. Richard, who had accompanied Denise to Harvard, was moved by the international recognition she received. "Denise, you've become a worldwide symbol of overcoming adversity." "Richard, I became this because you believed in me when no one else did." "You already had the talent. I just recognized it. And by recognizing it, you changed my life and the lives of thousands of people. Their friendship had become legendary. Books were written about their unlikely partnership. Denise turned 50, surrounded by friends, family, and national and international recognition. At the party, Richard gave a speech that moved everyone present. 15 years ago, I met a cleaner who fixed my car and changed my life. Today, she is one of the most admired women in the United States. Denise, thank you for teaching me that a person's worth isn't measured by their origin, but by their character and their contribution to the world. Denise replied with tears in her eyes, Richard, thank you for stopping your car in front of me that day. It wasn't just a car that broke down, it was prejudices that shattered to make way for a true and transformative friendship. The party ended with guests applauding the duo who had proven that social differences can be overcome when there's respect, mutual recognition, and a willingness to grow together. End of story. So, what did you think of Denise's incredible journey? A story that shows us that talent can be where we least expect it, and that a simple attitude can change lives forever. Tell us in the comments, do you know someone with hidden talents like Denise? Leave a like if you were inspired by this story, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other heartwarming stories like this one.